Welcome back to the Real Estate 401k Show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein. I've got Ryan Gerdes and Justin Frederick, as usual, around the table. And as promised, all week long, we got one of our dearest friends who we met and had the opportunity to meet at Luke Air Force Base, was one of the lieutenant colonels at the time and the squadron commander of the Angry Peckers, and now a full bird colonel and works at the Pentagon. And when he comes into town, this time, I feel like we're honored, Ryan. Normally, it's like, hey, I just rolled into town. I got one more night left. Can you guys hang out in an hour? And this time, we actually planned to head around golf.
I guilted him pretty good this time. I said, hey, look, I got something for you. And we're going to get to that by the end of this episode. But I did lay it on thick. I was like, hey, dude, even if it's just 5 minutes, I need you. Like, because I know that you've come back a couple of times, but we got for good reason. And you had obligations, so I totally get it. But thanks for making the time, pal.
No, I appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. All right. So from Monday's episode, we teased. We got into, and if you didn't get a chance to check out Monday's episode, you can go back and we got a chance to understand the role that Luke Air Force Base plays in the Valley of the Service of the Sun, and what it's like to fly in an F-35, and what it's like to get your call sign, and which obviously Colonel Christopher Marslender's call sign is Mulligan. And we teased because we ran out of time. Wanted to get into like what is to me there's two traditions that I find absolutely fascinating, and one is the tradition of the RMO, the round metal object, or people would know it better as a challenge coin, and then the roll call. And the roll call is nothing but fun, drinking, debauchery, whatever the case is. But the history of the roll call, I mean, really is a tearjerker.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
And then we introduced Ryan to a roll call. So
we
we'll get
did.
into that. So let's talk about what a roll call is and what you did to Ryan.
Well, let me very briefly address the challenge coin issue, because I don't think there are a lot of folks, particularly outside the military, that actually know the genesis of it. And it really stems back to BC era of only, or not only, but mostly land armies, and the idea that if Army A was going to go attack Army C, they might have to march through Country B to get there. And wars lasted. I mean, if you read, Peloponnesian Wars and some of these other historical events.
Dude, he's gone to the Pentagon. He's gotten smart on us.
You used a word that has more than 3 syllables. You lost Mike.
Yeah. Let's stick with the word war.
Hang on. Ready? Here we go. Okay. Ancient, really old.
Okay, I got that. Okay, ancient. Yeah.
So you might one army might go to war for 10 or 20 years, and then by the time, when you think about a generation being 30 years, you're really thinking about the amount of time and the change in this country that they had to march through to get to this conflict. And so the commanding officer, when going through countries that were not involved in this conflict, frequently would hand over some kind of unique artifact to say, hey, my army's marching through here. I don't have any problem with you. Some time from now, the army's going to come back through this area. I may or may not be with them, but in the event that you don't recognize anybody, somebody in that outfit will have one of these, and they would hand them over this artifact, whatever it may be. And that's literally the genesis of the challenge coin, and like where it came from.
Really?
It's like an over 2,000-year-old tradition of how it kind of came to be in terms of the U.S. military. So that's the round metal object piece of it. As far as the roll call goes, and this is a little bit more modern. The Air Force was born out of sort of the advent of technology and the acceleration of technology. And despite that, even as airplanes came about, particularly in combat back in World War I, there were no radios in aircraft in World War I because it was all a weight, issue of how heavy could you lift, something to travel some distance. And so radios at the time were large and heavy and all these issues. And so
that's right. Yeah, they were freaking huge back then.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So and you think about like how computers have gotten smaller and microchips have gotten smaller and all these things. And so the purpose of the roll call, particularly in World War I, was that a squadron would go out, they'd fly some kind of mission, they would come back, and literally people wouldn't, the pilots really wouldn't have a great idea of who survived, who didn't, unless you physically saw one of your buddies get shot down or you saw them once you got back on the ground. And so the tradition became they would collapse back into the squadron pub once they returned, and they would call the name of every single pilot in the squadron. And if nobody answered, they would know, like, okay, he didn't make it back. He's either dead or maybe he, crashed and survived or whatever the case may be. And so that tradition has stuck for 100+ years of, now when you get together with your friends in a roll call, the first thing that happens is the calling of the roll of the entire squadron. And that's all the pilots that are actively flying in the squadron. And then they get to, hey, if anybody's lost a friend, call out their name, and it's a nod to that heritage. And in a room full of 40 or 50 fighter pilots, I mean, there's probably, and all of us could go on for hours, but there's probably 20 or 30 names that get called out, and everybody, calls a name, and then everybody takes a drink afterwards. It's one of these, I will say just briefly, it's one of these pieces that you keep alive of keeping the memory of somebody alive by continually calling out their name amongst the brother and sisterhood.
And I love that because obviously it's a nod to them and their legacy, but on top of that, it's not a somber thing.
No.
It's fun. It's a ceremony. It's a positive thing. And so whenever I've been to one of those, it's always just been like a hey, we always had this badass time.
Yeah.
So do you want to get into about how you guys made me look like
how we ushered you in? Yeah. So we I would say of the many teaching techniques, the way I would introduce this story is to say the many teaching techniques that are out there, public humiliation is still a very valid one. And I think that we believe that in the community very much. And so,
we're all parents.
so I Mike reached out to me one day and he said, hey, we got to bring Ryan to a roll call. And the squadron I was flying with at the time, the 63rd Fighter Squadron at Luke Air Force Base, it was a good group of folks. And every roll call and every fighter squadron has what's called a mayor, which is kind of the chief a-hole kind of person. It's sort of the organizer of everything.
So around this table, who do you think's the mayor?
I mean, clearly you're the chief asshole. So
I was going with Ryan.
Ryan's a good backup dancer. Justin's clearly the sound guy. It's very obvious, right? So at any rate, Mike goes, hey, we got to bring Ryan out to a roll call. And I said, yeah, we got one on this date. Like, it'd be great. We'll let him show up. So the 63rd at the time had something that they were using called that they called the shack sack. So they would take a helmet bag and they would throw little mini bottles of liquor in there. And so public humiliation, like one of the ways to highlight that is you make somebody, you tell somebody come up, take a drink, for your shame. And that's kind of how and everybody's booing you while you do it, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so they had the shack sack ready. And so I asked Mike, and there's this fun tradition, particularly in the military, that when you have a buddy or a boss that you really, really care about, like the bad ones, you're just like, whatever, show up, say hi, leave, we don't care. Mm-hmm. The ones that you care about, you're like, we're gonna mess with them pretty good. And so so I asked Mike, I'm like, you wanna mess with Ryan a little bit? And he's like, yeah, definitely.
I didn't say. I said, no way.
Of course,
no way.
Yeah.
He's like, get this guy.
Bullshit.
So clearly one of us remembers this conversation. And so I said, well, here's what I'm going to tell him. And so what I went on to tell Ryan is I just said, hey, man, we'd love for you to come to this roll call. It's a really cool, unique thing. It's by invite only. There's not a lot of folks that get to go witness it. It's a super cool heritage. Here's the history behind it. So you can appreciate that portion when it shows up, and also acknowledge it's the last respectful thing that happens for the entire evening. But I said, hey, listen, there's this thing that if you're a guest to a roll call, it's a tradition to bring a gift because you're bringing a gift to the bar. It's a gift to the squadron, right? Even if you're a guest flyer or if I were to go to a roll call now being stationed at the Pentagon, if I were to attend one back here, I would still bring a gift, right?
Of course.
And so,
what kind of gifts are we talking about?
Booze. Usually it's booze.
Okay.
Right? Like usually
the same
it's
gifts that we exchange at Christmas.
Yeah, same thing we
Fake
do.
Christmas.
Okay.
Keep it simple.
But if you could narrow down what fighter pilots want to drink, it's probably not wine. It's probably bourbon or
Jeremiah
rye
weed.
or Jeremiah weed. Yeah, God love us. And so I go, Ryan, you really should bring a gift. It's the nice thing to do. And I said, and this is where the rat screw came in. I said, there's this weird story. I don't have time to explain it. I'm running to an event. We like to drink Chablis. And don't ask about it. I'll tell you later. But it's a thing. And he's like, okay. And being the dutiful soldier that he is, Ryan goes and grabs.
I'm like,
Were you like,
I'm
what the hell am I doing right
okay,
now?
well, yeah, I'm over here like, all right, there's tradition. I'm like, it sounds weird. Like, I don't even know what the fuck should we.
Well, I think in truth, when I told Mike about this, I'm pretty sure he Googled how to spell Chablis.
Yeah.
And so at
He
any
still
rate,
has no idea.
Yeah. So he's like, she took the main stage last week.
Actually, I do, and that's a funny story.
so at any rate, so we show up for the roll call, right? And and usually when you're going to get the bar's attention, you put your glass over your head, and so I said, Mr. Mayor, point of order. I said, I've got a guest in attendance this evening, Mr. Ryan Gerdes, and he's got a gift for the bar. And so Ryan goes, hey, I'm happy to be here. And I've told you guys like Chablis, and he holds up this bottle, and the whole bar, what?
Boo! They're throwing all the shit at me.
Screaming. And so he had to go up there and take a pull out of the shack sack.
Yeah, I think I got a good one though. I think I got like Crown out of there.
I think you got something.
Normally it's something terrible out of there. Like
it's kind of like call signs. It's never something you did so good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I do want to dig into, and I do want to dig into something real quick because I got something for you. I want to talk to you a little, or I want you to talk a little bit about your career and the path and the most recent promotion that you had. That we had it was
Time of our lives.
Time of our lives to experience. So give us the cliff notes.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I'm lucky in that I wanted to fly fighters when I was 6 years old. My parents actually have like the note that I drew an F-16 and said I want to go to the Air Force Academy and fly F-16s when I was 6. And so I'm super lucky that I got to do what I wanted to go do. I mean, just very, very blessed, quite frankly. Right. I mean, it came with some hard work, but I graduated from the Air Force Academy, and careers all take different paths and all these different things. But I was lucky to do okay in pilot training and got the jet that I wanted. I went to F-16 training in Ohio, and then showed up at my first operational unit in Germany in 2007 to 2010. We were in both Afghanistan and Iraq at the time, and so I did 2 deployments to Iraq. And flew between those 2 deployments 100 combat sorties on the nose, and then left there and came here to Luke Air Force Base for the first time as an instructor, as a young instructor, and then left here to go to weapons school, which is our version of Top Gun, except ours is 6 months, theirs is only a few weeks, and so it's a little bit different. But at any rate,
go ahead and say it.
Yeah,
you go ahead and say it.
I mean, we don't all need hair gel and movies made about us, but that's okay. So, so at any rate, so I left weapons school and I went to South Korea and spent a year in South Korea, kind of being ready in the event that anything like that kicked off, and then ended up in South Carolina. I like to say for 14 months and deployed for 4 of them. So that was a busy time. That was to the anti-ISIS fight. So. That was my 3rd deployment, and it was by far the busiest one, and kind of the most gut-wrenching one. We lost a pilot while I was there. The Jordanian that was immolated in a cage happened while I was there. It was kind of a crazy time in history, frankly, for the world. And then left and came back and got to go to school and landed back here at Luke for a few years, and that's when I got to know you guys, and then ended up in D.C. Serving my penance along the side of everybody else inside that 5-sided building. So,
and it's been remarkable watching you grow and meeting all your comrades and you recently last April got promoted to colonel, and so we flew out to DC and got to experience that, and it was just amazing. So what we decided to do is reach out to everybody that was there and compile pictures and testimony and narrative and stories and all that. Here, I'm going to reach into my backpack.
Like Mary Poppins.
Yeah. And Christine, if you're watching, nod to you for
Doing all the work.
Oh my
all
gosh.
together.
Yeah.
But
That's amazing.
I would like to present this to you.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah. It's a little something
so
from
cool.
us, and thank you for including us. Thank you for the experience. Congratulations on all your success, man. You deserve every last bit of it. You're just a bad motherfucker, man.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
I sincerely appreciate that. Thank you, guys. I
Yeah.
love you guys. I mean, it was a surreal moment to have all the people that I love and care about around me at that ceremony. My parents were there, and it was a tough one. In particular, for 2 reasons. It was the first time that I was. So my dad read me the oath of office When I commissioned as a second lieutenant, he read it. There really wasn't an opportunity at first lieutenant or captain, so he read it at major, he read it at lieutenant colonel, he read it at colonel. And this was the first one. Both my parents were retired lieutenant colonels in the Army, and this was the first one where I actually outranked them. Which you may remember, I kind of pulled rank on my mom at the dinner table that evening, and she didn't appreciate that.
Yeah, it
very
didn't
much.
work out so well for you.
Mama Marslender
Never
didn't like
works.
that.
Never works.
Yeah, she was like, I'm not clocking out.
Check yourself, Colonel. So it was good, but it was also, it frankly was difficult because I knew based on personal reasons and life stuff that was going on that it was going to be my last promotion. If you guys may or may not have heard this, but when I took the oath of office, when I said "do solemnly swear," there was a warble in my voice, and it was because that was the second that I realized like this is the last one. And so to have you guys there, like I mean, it just really meant a tremendous amount, and to have so many people around me, and for it to be such a great weekend. I mean, it was a lot of fun. So
Feelings
thank
mutual,
you,
man.
guys. This is amazing. Thank
Well,
you.
my favorite moment was when
You lost your wallet?
Well, that too. That definitely was not my favorite moment.
That was a long moment, by the way.
Mike was too,
was horrible.
too lost in
That was
making fun of
horrible.
me. He was like,
But I guess the lesson to that story is yes, you can get through TSA and security at an airport
a way to do it.
without a driver's license or proof of ID. It took me a while, but I pulled it off.
apparently you can do it in DC. Yeah.
That's your salesmanship.
So-
Text F35 to 623.
So one of the hardest things I've ever laughed at in my entire life being around Ryan was during the ceremony, and your dad led the oath. And let's just say that he had a really difficult time getting through it.
I printed it out for him for a reason.
Dude, it was so emotional for him, and it was just the pride that he had in his son, and he just
Super cool.
couldn't get through it. And then when we were done, we're walking out, and Ryan puts his hand on your dad's shoulder and goes, "Way to hold it together there." or you really held it together there.
I did do that.
I think, you know what? I think my dad's been around enough of my buddies to understand, like, he's not going to get a pass from anybody at this point.
All right. Well, believe it or not, we truly are about real estate and helping you build wealth in real estate. And we're going to keep Mulligan around for Friday's episode. We're going to actually talk about the Pentagon. We're going to actually talk a little bit about politics, their thought on what's going on, and more importantly, their interpretation of how it impacts the real estate market across the whole. Because the one thing I've always appreciated about the F-35 and F-16 pilots I've been around, you guys are so freaking smart. You do your homework. You love money. You love to make money. You love to invest. And it's just been some great conversations. So some of the most intelligent conversations I have, whether it's real estate, Bitcoin, whatever the case is, are with pilots. And we're going to continue the conversation on Friday, but if you'd like to reach us and have more information about that, go ahead and text the word call for call sign to 623-AZ-RECON. Ryan will share how he, if you're interested, how he got his call sign Dirty Gertie. Again, text the word call to 623-AZ-RECON.